everybody, my name is Jenna and today I am here to talk about the Winx Club adaptation. Talking about Fate, the Winx saga, which incidentally just got renewed for a second season. But before Julie and the Phantoms, why has Julie and the Phantoms not got a second season, Netflix? Like, I have questions for them that I need them to answer. So like I said, we're gonna be talking about Fate in this video today, and I don't really have I've got random things written down that I was thinking about when I was watching the show, and I don't really have like a coherent storyline to tell you guys, and I haven't really got my thoughts together, so this video is going to a total ramble mess thing. I'm okay with that because I just wanted to sit down and talk to a camera about the Winx Club adaptation because I liked it, and the fact that I liked it makes me uncomfortable. So let's go back to the beginning. If you don't know what the Winx Club is, basically it was this awesome Italian, it started out as an Italian show and then it moved on to Nickelodeon in America, show about these fairies who attend this magical school called Althea. And we follow a girl named Bloom who was from Gardenia, and she didn't know about Althea and she didn't know she was a fairy until she does some magic, and this other fairy, Stella, catches her. And Stella takes Bloom to Althea where she meets the headmistress, and then Bloom is enrolled and she starts going to school there. She ends up sharing a suite with Flora, Tecna, Musa, and Stella, and the five of them are known as the Winx Club. And then in season 2 we get Layla, or she's sometimes known as Aisha in the, I think it's the Nickelodeon version, she's Aisha, and she expands the Winx Club. And in season 2 we also get the Pixies. And then on the other side we have the school Red Fountain, which is for the specialists, so it's where the boys go to learn how to be heroes. And at Red Fountain we have Prince Sky, we have Brandon, we have Timmy, and we have Riven. And then a third school that we have is Cloud Tower, which is a school for young witches. And at Cloud Tower we have Darcy, Icy, and Stormy, who are known as the Tricks, and they are like the main villains for the story. That's the original Winx Club. So the original Winx Club was campy as hell, it was colourful, it was bright, the girls were completely into fashion, they were the most fashionable fairies I've ever seen. The fairies had actual wings, they would go through these little transformations where they'd be like, let's go Winx Club! And then they would like put on their Winx Club outfits. I'm still not entirely sure how they went about it, but they did. They'd have their wings and then they'd fight and they could fly, and it was all this fun sort of stuff. Each of them had particular powers. So we had Bloom, who had the dragon fire, which she didn't know to start with, but she had fire powers. Stella had the power of sunlight. Musa had the power of music. Flora had the power of like earth fairies, and then Tecna had the power of like technology and digits and all that sort of stuff. So that was the Winx Club. And then we got Fate. And Fate is a live action YA dark adaptation of this story. So we were thrown into this completely new old world. So we start off with Bloom, who she is from California, and she realizes she has magic powers, so she starts attending Althea, which is a boarding school, but it's not just for fairies. Also at this boarding school are the specialists. So they've combined the two schools into one, which to be fair kind of makes sense for like logistical purposes for the actual filming of the show. Instead of having the two different settings, in order for them to all be together in this one space, it does actually make sense for them to have joined the schools, and I'm not mad about that in one bit. The problem that I had going into it is the fairies themselves. So we had Bloom, who's got the same powers. Stella still has her sunlight powers. Musa is now a mind fairy, and she has empathy, like she's an empath, so she has empathy powers, and her like music is just a way of blocking all that out, so she no longer has music powers. Instead of Flora we have Terra, who is Flora's cousin, and she is still an earth fairy and can do cool things. I must admit I loved Terra. I really liked her. Even though she wasn't Flora, I did really like her. And then we have Aisha, who is a water fairy. So there's no Tecna and there's no Flora, which was a bit odd. On the other side for the specialists, we have Sky and we have Riven, but we don't have Brandon or Timmy. And we don't have the Tricks at all. We don't have any witches. All we have is Beatrix, who I believe is meant to be like an amalgamation of Icy, Darcy, and Stormy. She has like the electricity powers that Stormy had, and she's like a bitch, which is what Icy, Darcy, and Stormy were. So that's sort of where we start the show, with all these characters and all these different things. And I didn't hate it. It was definitely a lot darker. It was a hell of a lot gorier than the original cartoon. Right from the opening scene I was like, whoa, we're not in Kansas anymore, this is totally different. And some of the changes that they made I think actually really worked for the show. And one of the things that I did going into this show is I sort of said to myself, look, this is not the Winx Club. This is a very distant third cousin of the Winx Club that just happens to share a couple of the same sorts of character names, character places, and a few like key plot points. But apart from that, the rest of it is something completely new and different. And that actually really helped me in order to enjoy the show. I think that if this show had not been labeled Winx Club and had nothing to do with it and was just this show about fairies at a magical school, I actually think I would have enjoyed it a lot more, and I think I would have probably sorted out because it's exactly the kind of show that I know I would love. The issue I had with it was the fact that it was called Winx Club and it so obviously was not Winx. So we're just going to go through some of the thoughts I had while watching episode 1. I will admit there are going to definitely be spoilers in this entire video, so don't watch it if you haven't seen the show and are planning on it. For the first episode, these are the notes that I wrote down. So specialists and fairies all go to Althea College together. There are female specialists. Yeah, there are female specialists and there are male fairies in this, whereas in the original show, all the specialists were male and all the fairies were female. I kind of get why they've done it now because obviously it's 2021, exclusivity, all of that sort of stuff, but at the same time, I kind of liked it that it was only female fairies and male specialists, but you know, gotta have that exclusivity. Miss Farragonda is now Miss Dowling. Yeah, that was weird. They changed Miss Farragonda's name for literally no reason whatsoever, so didn't love that. Bloom's parents don't know she's a fairy and think she's in Switzerland. That's really different as well because in the show, in the original Winx Club, they tell Bloom's parents everything and they know she's a fairy, whereas in this one they don't. Stella didn't find Bloom doing magic in Gardenia and is kind of a bitch and is apparently a second year. Yeah, Stella had a complete personality transplant for this show. In the original, she and Bloom are best friends right from the get-go. Stella is a little bit self-absorbed, but she has the best interests of all of their friends at heart. She's a really good character and she's on the same level as them. They're all first years, whereas this Stella was a second year and she was a bitch. So that was a really interesting change for them to have made. Terra instead of Flora, but Flora is her cousin. Like I said, I don't hate it. I actually really like Terra. I thought she was probably one of the best well-rounded out characters in the entire show. Really liked her. Burned ones, question mark? This is different. So in the original Winx Club, there's no such thing as burned ones, whereas in this one there is. And I think the reason why they've done that is because the original show is very much an episode by episode sort of thing, but it also does have those overarching storylines. This season, of course, was a short 6 episodes and you really needed something to focus on in order to have that common enemy. And for these guys, it was the burnt ones, which I must admit, I did kind of guess the big twist around them, but I didn't hate it. Definitely a lot darker and gorier than the cartoon, definitely. Truthfully, having them all be British is making it hard for me to hate it. I won't lie, the fact that all of them apart from Bloom were British literally is like half the reason why I like the show. It's just a thing. Bloom's backstory is very different. She literally gave her mother 3rd-degree burns and oh wow, she's a changeling. Completely different than the backstory in the original series, which is where she was a princess of Sparks, Sparks was destroyed, and her sister Daphne took her to Gardenia in order to live with her parents. Totally different here. Completely. Althea is freaking gorgeous though. Yes, oh my goodness, the cinematography and the locations for this show were like A+. That Harry Potter reference in the first episode is amazing and so good. Don't remember it, but I'm sure it was great. I don't know if I'm liking this because it's good or if I'm just liking it because I like Abby Cohen. So Abby plays the main character Bloom and she was in Stranger Things, she was in Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, so she's been in quite a few things recently that I really enjoy and I do really like her as an actress and I was very excited to see her get her own show. And yeah, watching the first episode, I really wasn't sure if I was enjoying it because I was enjoying the show itself or just because I love Abby and was enjoying her performance. After finishing it, I can tell you that it's a little bit of both. Terra is actually my fave. She's a badass. Oh yeah, so Terra is a bigger girl and she is, you know, sort of billed as the fat best friend, I guess. Everybody knows that, you know, the bigger girls are really sweet and kind and Terra definitely takes that and she just flips it on its head. She literally starts like choking a guy out with her plant magic and I was like, girl, yes! So Terra is a fantastic character. She can definitely get mean when she wants to be and I loved everything about her. The Stella and Bloom dynamic is completely different and it's weird AF. I still stand by that. The Stella Bloom dynamic, because it was such an important part of the original cartoon, having their friendship and the fact that Stella and Bloom were absolute best friends, to then come into this show and see them hate each other was really jarring and I didn't love it. Muse's powers are completely different and again it's weird AF. She's a mind fairy, nothing to do with music, but she uses magic as a way to block out other people's emotions. Uses music, sorry, oh my god. I don't totally hate that they changed Muse's power. I sort of get why they did it because now they've got the 5 main fairies. So they've got the fire fairies, the earth fairies, the fire, earth, mind, water, and I want to say Stella is an air fairy? I think there's an air fairy is the 5th one. So I don't hate that at all. I think that it's done really well. It actually gives Musa sort of something else that we can, you know, like another layer to her, and I actually kind of enjoyed it. I am not loving the Stella Sky relationship or the love triangle with Bloom. I still stand by that. The Stella Sky relationship was awful and I hated it, and the love triangle with Bloom was just weird and I didn't like any of it. That kind of happened in the cartoon a little bit, because in the cartoon, or did it? Not really, but I don't like it in the show. I didn't enjoy it at all. It's odd to see the Winx Club friendship form so slowly, but it's definitely a more realistic approach than the cartoon. I absolutely 100% stand by this. It was really weird to see them form their friendship so slowly, but because all of them apart from Stella are first years, this is the first time they're meeting each other, and you don't automatically become best friends with people when you first meet them just because you're living together. Trust me, I've had roommates, it's not a thing that happens. So to see this one develop a lot more slowly and to see them slowly build trust with each other, I think was definitely more realistic than the cartoon, and definitely worked really, really well for this show. Alright, oh, I can smell my lunch cooking, how good. Moving on to episode 2. Stella is still the Princess of Celeria. I love that. I love that she's still the Princess of Celeria and that it still exists. Beatrix is an air fairy. And then, are there no witches in this version? It's true. At least Riven is still kind of a dick. Yes, I stand by this. He's awful. Like, he's kind of a douche in the cartoon, and he's still a complete douche in the show. Love that. Stella has had a complete personality transplant. Yes, she has, and I don't like it. Profanity is all I've written. Yeah, they swear in this show. I'm alright with it. Riven and Beatrix having a thing does remind me of Riven and Darcy. So there was a section in the cartoon where Riven and Darcy start dating, and Riven and Beatrix's relationship absolutely reminds me of that, which is another, like, hint, I guess, to the fact that Beatrix is meant to be an amalgamation of the Trix characters. Clearly not following along with the plot of the first season of the original like I thought they were going to. That's true. I thought they were going to adapt this series as like season 1, season 2, season 3. Not the case at all. Basically what they've done is they've borrowed a couple of characters, a couple of locations, and a couple of really important plot threads. The rest of it they've made up on their own, which honestly I think is probably the better way they could have gone about it, because I don't think this 26 episode season would have been done very well in 6 episodes. Maybe I was wrong because Bloom is hearing a voice calling her in the woods. Could it be Daphne? That was me realizing I'd just been like, oh, they're clearly not following the original, and then Bloom started hearing a voice and I was like, Daphne, is that you? No, it was not. It was the band one, but I still really enjoyed that. It's not as colorful as the original, but the girls definitely still have style. I stand by this. The girls have incredible style, and I would kill for Bloom's wardrobe. Beatrix is working for someone called He. Could this be Valtor? This was me. I just watched the first 3 seasons and I was like, is it Valtor? What's happening? It was not, and I was wrong. Bloom feels a connection to the burnt ones. I'm not even surprised about that at all. Moving on to episode 3, my notes were Bloom remembers the face of the fairy who left her. Again, kind of like the Daphne situation. So you can sort of see where they were pulling on plot threads from the original cartoon, but they definitely twisted them and made them their own. I'm not a fan of Stella and... Jeez Louise! I'm not a fan of Stella and Sky dating. I think I say that like in every episode because I just wasn't a fan of it at all. The food at Althea looks incredible. Oh, the food at Althea looked so good. Every time they were eating, I was like, I want to eat that. Tara is such a badass sweetheart, and although I miss Flora, I really love her. I stand by that. Tara was a fantastic addition to the cast. She's a fantastic character, and I'm a little bit sad that we didn't get Flora, but I also really like that we were able to have this one character, because all the other fairies we knew from the cartoon, whereas Tara was a complete original, and she was able to be built from the ground up, and it's something that I think was done really well. The weirdest part of the show might be the fact that Stella is a bitch and she and Bloom aren't best friends. Stand by that. Still think it was a weird decision that they made. Sky's dad is dead, what the heck, and Silver is his father figure? That whole thing was so weird to me, like having Sky's father be dead, because I was like, that was such a big thing from the cartoon, was that he was trying to live up to this image that his dad had in his mind, so that was weird. I don't know how I feel about that. The teachers knowing all about the specialist party and Silver being the one who started it is kind of amazing. Yes, I stan the teachers of this school. The teachers were amazing. Them drinking is so weird. Them drinking was so weird. Oh my goodness. I was like, you're drinking alcohol, what the heck? Yeah, weird time. I'm positive Bloom's hairstyle in this party is a replica of one of her looks from Winx. Yes, I stand by that. I'm positive that a lot of the hairstyles Bloom had were taken directly from the comics. Not the comics, the cartoon. Why are the beer pong cups so full? Seriously. Also, the fact there is beer pong at all is just like, what the fuck? Yeah, I stand by that. But like, when you play beer pong, you're meant to put like this much in a cup. No, their cups were full. I was like, oh my god, guys. Am I playing it wrong or are they playing it wrong? I'm not sure. Stella blinded her old roommate because she flirted with Sky. What? That's not Stella. Stella's personality transplant really threw me for a loop here. Musa and Sam are cute. They were a really cute couple, but only because Riven was a complete douchebag. Riven and Musa in the cartoon, hands down, love them. Oh yeah, Rosalind was the one in Bloom's vision and is the one Beatrix is working for. Who is Rosalind? My notes were just me being like, these are things that are different, but also what the hell is going on? I'm disappointed by the lack of capes and colored swords for the specialists. I absolutely stand by that. I'm disappointed. It totally makes sense why they don't have that as a thing, because that would look so out of place in this show, but like, I'm disappointed by it. Why is there a glowing blue wall underneath Althea? Why indeed? The group taking down a bird bomb was great, even if Dowling did do it. That was definitely the first time that the Winx Club actually felt like the Winx Club, and I did really enjoy that. Sky and Silver's relationship is kind of great. Yes. Dowling telling off the Winx Club was so reminiscent of the OG show that I loved. That's so true. So there are multiple moments in the OG show where Faragonda is telling off the Winx Club and is like, you guys are the worst, but also I'm so proud of you. That was the exact energy in that particular scene where Dowling was like, I'm so mad at you, but I'm also so proud of you. And then they have Instagram and Beatrix's handle is Tricks and Treat. The Instagram thing was weird and threw me a lot. I do appreciate that Bloom is still the main character and the most powerful fairy. And then in brackets I had Dragonflame or like Dragonfire, because there was no mention of Dragonfire yet in the show, but I was pretty sure. Alright, I think we've moved on to episode 4. Yes, episode 4. Sam is a super good brother. Terra is a badass. Yes and yes. Stella's mum is different. Correction, she's a bitch. Yes. Riven and Sky fighting does actually remind me a lot of the OG. Yes, Riven and Sky fought a lot in the original cartoon, and seeing them fight again in the show definitely brought me back. And yeah, it's really interesting that Stella has little control over her powers. That's something really interesting to me, because in the original cartoon, Stella is like one of the best of them who can do all this sort of stuff, whereas in the show, she's completely lost control of her powers, and it was a really different sort of dynamic, I guess. Yeah. If Beatrix is meant to be the embodiment of the Tricks, then it's super weird to see her and Bloom be so chummy. I stand by that statement. Beatrix and Bloom are both from the ruined settlement, which was called Acidil, which I thought was maybe meant to be Sparks, which was obviously the planet that Daphne and Bloom were from. And then I did wonder if Beatrix was a version of Daphne and if the two of them were sisters, which was, I believe, disproven by the final episode, but it did make me think. And then Stella's mum made her leave Althea, and I was like, I'm so confused. And I didn't like Sky being told he has to get close to Bloom in order to report on her. There were a lot of things going on that I was like, I don't like this at all. Alright guys, we've moved on to episode 5. So episode 5, I really like the teaming up of a fairy and a specialist one-on-one. I do really like that, and the same sort of thing kind of even happens in the original cartoon. They all sort of pair up together. So Bloom and Sky, Stella and Brandon, Tekna and Timmy, Musa and what's his name? Riven, and then Flora and Julio, and then Aisha has one, but I can't remember who hers is. I can't remember if hers is a specialist either. Oh yeah, and then randomly I was like, Silver has amazing cheekbones, because he does, and I just had to mention that. I can't quite figure out the curriculum at Althea. I can't figure out the curriculum at Althea at all. It doesn't make any sense, but you know, we'll go with it. Musa almost always being in pigtails makes me happy. Yes. I loved little things, and the fact that in the original cartoon, Musa is always wearing pigtails. So in this version, Musa always has some sort of pigtail thing going on, and I loved that as a callback to the cartoon. It was great. The backstory of Stella's erratic magic is great. Yes, so this is something that obviously was really, really different from the cartoon, but I thought it worked really well for the show. Stella has a whole new backstory, and it's great. It's terrible, but it's great. And then the last note for this episode was Bloom knocking out Sky after their first kiss though. They're a great couple, but yeah. Now we've got episode 6. My first note was, okay, so there are witches, but Rosalind may have killed them all. That's something that I find really interesting, because the witches are such a big part of the original cartoon that if there are witches in the show, it would be a really great way to introduce them. Bloom's fairy parents are possibly still alive. I believe this is something about in the cartoon as well. I know Daphne is definitely still alive in the cartoon, and I do believe that Sparks is actually alive and that Bloom's parents are somewhere, they just have to find them. So that was something that again was sort of the same. I'm positive Bloom has the Dragonfire. Oh, I'll tell you guys, I was positive by this point that Bloom had the Dragonfire. I was like, they can't not give her her the dragon fight. That's like her one personality trait in the original cartoon. It has to happen. Sam is kind of pointless besides being Muse's boyfriend and Terra's brother, but I still love him. I stand by that statement. Sam is Terra's brother, Muse's boyfriend, and he is an earth fairy, but that's pretty much it. Nothing else really matters. Bloom asking the Winx Club for help is amazing and perfect. Yes. And then I had this whole final episode so far is great. Yes, I stand by that statement. By this point, I was pretty invested in the show. I was like, I actually kind of like this. Sky's father died at Astrodal, didn't expect. Silver really did kill Sky's dad, oh shit, also didn't expect. I'm really disappointed by the lack of coloured swords for the specialist. I was really hung up on this point. I miss their coloured swords. Muse's mum having passed away is the same as in the cartoon, but the fact that she felt it happen is really different. And then I just had, oh my gosh, a Winx transformation? Bloom has wings? I loved it. I was waiting all season for a Winx Club transformation, and in the final episode I finally got it. At the very beginning, Mrs. Dowling had told Bloom that no, we grew out of our wings, no one has them anymore. And then in the last episode, Bloom was like, bitch, please, I have wings. And it was amazing. I loved it. But also that final battle was over so fast. Yes, it was over so quickly. And then I had, who is Beatrix's dad? Is it Valtor? I was like convinced that Valtor was going to be in like the show. And then I had, oh my god, could they all transform in season 2? So in the original cartoon, the Winx Club girls, they go through different transformations. In the first season it's Winx, in the second season it's Enchantix, and in the third season it's, I can't remember what it is, but basically they go through these different transformations, so I'm sort of like, maybe the same thing will happen in the show. I don't know. The Winx Club sleepover in California is great. Yes. Bloom telling her parents she's a fairy is super cute. And then I just had in massive capital letters, the dragon flame, I fucking knew it! Yes, stand by that statement. From the very first episode I was like, Bloom is going to have the dragon flame. She's gonna have the dragon fire, it's gonna be great, and I was correct. And then, oh my god, so Sky's dad is Beatrix's adopted dad? I was so confused, and then the death of Miss Dowling got me, holy fuck. Yes it did, because I was not expecting it. So, it's not Winx Club, but like, wow, I weirdly enjoyed the show, and I'm actually so happy they got renewed for a season 2. And in the little message, the showrunner was like, you never know who might show up in season 2, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, Flora, Techna, Timmy, Brandon, the tricks! I'm now a fan of the show, and I think that my prejudice towards it was definitely because it didn't look like Winx Club, and it still doesn't look like Winx Club, but if you think of it as like a distant third cousin, I think you'll really enjoy it too. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have seen Fate the Winx Saga, let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section below, because I would absolutely love to know. If you like this video, be sure to give it a huge thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss a thing. Stay random. Bye.